All right, lots to cover today, so let's just get started. Texas just sent 200 National Guard troops to Illinois. The mission? Protecting federal buildings in Chicago after nights of chaos outside the immigration centers.
To have a great country, you can't have crime. And we don't have crime, but we have cities where there's tremendous crime. And Chicago's one of them. And if the governor can't straighten it out, we'll straighten it out. Thank you.
Texas.
Now here's the twist. This isn't a state mission. These troops are on a federal assignment, meaning they answer to Washington, not Governor Abbott.
Governor Pritzker should be calling President Trump up and thanking him for taking over 1,000 criminal aliens off the streets of his state. The same President Trump did in Los Angeles, the same he did in Washington, D.C., the same we're doing in other cities. We're there to make the city safer. And you think Governor Pritzker and the Mayor Johnson, their number one responsibility is protection of communities. Remove public safety threats from the public. We're there to do that. And we're not going to stop doing it. They can stand aside and watch us do it, but we're going to be out there tonight. We're going to be out there tomorrow. And thank God for Governor Abbott. He's sending troops out there to help protect ICE officers who have over 1,000% increase in attacks. So President Trump's doing the right thing. We're going to continue doing the right thing. We are not stopping what we're doing.
And Illinois didn't ask for it. Governor Pritzker is fuming, calling it unconstitutional and political and trying to stop it in the court. The judge said no, and the troops are already there. So let's call it for what it is. The federal government stepping in because Chicago's leadership lost control. When mayors tell police to stand down and criminals run the streets, eventually someone higher up needs to step in. That's not overreach, that's consequences. And this right here shows the spiritual side of what's happening in America. Proverbs 14:34 says, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. We turn from righteousness, and the chaos we're seeing, it's not random. It's the harvest of a rebellion. Next, we have James Comey, the former FBI director who spent years lying to the American people and was pushing the Russia hoax like it was fact.
James Comey faces 2 charges related to his 2020 Senate testimony. Federal prosecutors say he lied in 2020 about a question he was first asked back in 2017.
Have you ever authorized someone else at the FBI to be an anonymous source in news reports about the Trump investigation or the Clinton investigation?
No.
On September 30th, 2020, 3 years later, he was asked about that once again.
Mr. McCabe, who works for you, has publicly and repeatedly stated that he leaked information to the Wall Street Journal and that you were directly aware of it and that you directly authorized it. Now, what Mr. McCabe is saying and what you testified to this committee cannot both be true. One or the other is false. Who's telling the truth?
I can only speak to my testimony. I stand by what the testimony you summarized that I gave in May of 2017.
Now, the indictment relates to the 2020 statement because it's just days before the 5-year statute of limitations expires. Comey's alleged lie is related to leaks about Hillary Clinton to the Wall Street Journal in 2016. A 2018 DOJ Inspector General report found that McCabe authorized a leak to the press and that Comey was truthful when he said he, James Comey, did not authorize it. The Justice Department will have to prove that Comey did authorize leaks to the media via his deputy. His initial court appearance is October 9th. His attorney, former U.S. Attorney Pat Fitzgerald, tells Fox News that he's looking forward to vindicating his client. The law calls for 5 years behind bars for each count, but legal experts say it's unlikely prison time would be anywhere near that if he's convicted.
He's now being indicted, 2 counts, false statements, and obstruction of justice. The indictment came out of East District of Virginia, and each charge carries up to 5 years of prison and a $250,000 fine. Prosecutors say he lied to Congress about authorizing media leaks tied to the 2020 Senate investigation into the FBI surveillance. He's expected to plead not guilty, and right on cue, the media is calling it political. And now on to day 8 of the government shutdown, and yes, this one falls on the Democrats. They walked away from negotiations, and Republicans had a plan that kept the government open and funded border security. Democrats refused to even debate it. Instead, they chose a shutdown. Now hundreds of thousands of workers are furloughed, and another 700,000 are still working without pay.
In addition to your titles, you also have 56,000, I think, federal workers in your home state of Ohio, 6,000 in your district alone. Do you think that
at the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that they should all be getting back pay?
Well, I think people are working, certainly. I mean, that the way, people who are furloughed or aren't essential, I think that's a different question. But the way to solve this is for Chuck Schumer to open the government, for Chuck Schumer to vote for what he did 6 months ago, and then you don't have to deal with this question. But where I come from, if the truck driver's not driving a truck, he doesn't get paid. If the guy who hangs drywall is not hanging drywall, he doesn't get paid. So I think that's a different question than certainly the people who are working every day during this shutdown caused by Chuck Schumer. But the question is moot if Chuck Schumer would simply do what he did 6 months ago, do the common sense thing, vote for the level of spending that he and all the other Democrats agreed to just a few months ago.
National parks are closed, small business loans are paused, and air traffic staffing is down to 10%. The last shutdown this long, back in 2018, cost the economy around $11 billion. Take a look.
Day 8 of the Democrat shutdown. As is our custom now, we'll come out every morning and give you an update on where things stand. I've tried to make this as simple as possible and as digestible as possible. It seems complicated, what's happening in Washington right now. It actually is very simple. Don't let the Democrats distract you and try to convince you of things that are not true. Yesterday, or a couple of days ago, Monday, I laid out 6 simple truths about how the Democrats shut down the government, why they did it, and why it is so important for them to come to their senses and turn the lights on. Yesterday, I went through 5 fast facts for you about the shutdown, and I explained, as everyone now knows, Chuck Schumer's desperate attempts to rehabilitate his own image by shutting down the government. Today, we're going to talk about some of the consequences of that shutdown and what it means to real people around this country, real Americans experiencing the devastating cost of their political antics here. And I'm going to read you some sample quotes and headlines that we just collected yesterday from around the country. Here's a headline from The Hill. GOP leaders point to Capitol Police missed paychecks as shutdown drags on. So today, the U.S. Capitol Police officers are going to come to work to bravely protect U.S. government officials and staff in these dangerous times. They're going to do that without pay. Many Democrats in this chamber, by the way, I want to note, are going to receive paychecks this month, while the men and women of the U.S. Capitol Police who are protecting them will not. Here's another headline from the New York Post. Aviation groups warn a government shutdown will delay aircraft safety inspections, maintenance work on critical equipment. While air traffic controllers are going to continue to serve in their posts, thankfully, critical safety inspections are going to stop, increasing risk for air travelers. That affects everybody. Here's another headline from Georgia, local media in Georgia. Central Georgia food banks prepare for surge of new clients during the government shutdown. It's a sad headline. Remember, Georgia's 2 Democrat senators, Warnock and Ossoff, have now voted 5 times to keep the government closed down. 5 times so far. I suspect they may continue, and they're hurting real people in the state of Georgia. Here's one from New Hampshire local media. National parks caught in the crosshairs of government shutdown. Let me point out that both senators from New Hampshire, Senators Shaheen and Hassan, have repeatedly voted to keep the government closed, and New Hampshire's national park sites closed by extension. How about New Jersey? Here's a headline yesterday. Hospital at-home telehealth programs on hold amid government shutdown. You got 2 Democrat senators in New Jersey, Andy Kim and Cory Booker, and they have repeatedly voted against funding these programs, which New Jerseyans rely upon daily. Here's one from Michigan. Michigan nonprofit leaders said a shutdown would be at best disruptive and at worst potentially devastating for local communities. There are 2 Democrat senators in Michigan, Gary Peters and Alyssa Slotkin, and they have voted now 5 times to enable this devastation upon their communities. One more, I could do this all day. Here's one more from CBS News. Government shutdown fears have Colorado food banks bracing for potential new visitors. You guessed it, 2 Democrat senators from Colorado, Michael Bennet and John Hickenlooper. They keep voting over and over to keep the government closed.
And now we're seeing reports that the WIC program, the one providing food for low-income women, infants, and children, is running out of money. It serves nearly 7 million families every single month. And without action, some states could start turning people away within days. Take a look.
Down entering its second week, the Trump administration says it has figured out a workaround to help about 7 million Americans. President Donald Trump wants to use money generated by the trade tariffs to help fund the food assistance program called WIC. WIC helps provide food assistance to pregnant women, new moms, and young children in need. However, the idea could hit a roadblock. Tariff money goes into a general fund managed by the Treasury Department. That fund and all tariff revenue is essentially frozen until Congress passes a funding bill and reopens the government. Congress and the administration could get around that by passing a measure to designate the tariff revenue for a specific use.
While Congress continues to stall, President Trump announced he's redirecting existing tariff funds to keep WIC running. Without this move, WIC would have ran out of money completely during this shutdown. This plan keeps the doors open and families supported until Congress can come up with a budget. Democrats are calling it illegal, arguing the money can't be moved without their approval. But the White House says that it's within its executive authority and it's necessary to prevent disruption to critical programs. Here's the reality. People are struggling, and politics won't feed their kids. Whether you like Trump or not, at least someone is trying to find a solution instead of just pointing fingers. So that's where we are. Troops in Illinois, a former FBI director finally facing charges, and a government shutdown that never needed to happen. Tell me what you think. That's it for today. Like, subscribe, and share. And as always, keep fighting the good fight.